The development of monasticism and the impact of monasticism in medieval society. Monasticism has truly impacted upon medieval society and today as well. The medieval ages was a period of time that occurred after the fall of the Roman Empire at the 5th century to the 15th century at the start of the Renaissance. Monasticism significances have ranged from education to scientific, historic and cultural preservations, maintaining idea and great works. Monasticism has given God full devotion by many men and women who agreed to become monks and nuns.
To begin with, what is monasticism? The word monasticism derives from the Greek word mono, meaning alone and solitary. According to the Oxford Dictionary, monasticism is the way of life for monks that live in monasteries. Monasticism was developed during the time when Christians were still persecuted for their beliefs. People fled to remote places like the deserts or the hills to devote their entire life to God. There are two types of monasticism: eremitical monasticism and cenobitic monasticism. Eremitical monasticism is when a person lives by himself or herself to pray or to fast for religious reasons. Many people meditated, prayed, fasted, and did hard work. Eremitic monks usually lived in small caves and did not need vows or rules to join. Monks would rarely trade with others for food and other crafts. A male monk would be known as an abba, and a female monk would be known as an amma. Cenobitic monasticism is where there is a group of people who are isolated from society. They were led by a head monk, and they had rules and vows.
Firstly, monasteries became places of education, reading, and writing. This allowed the writing and preservation of many historical texts, from sacred texts in different languages, manuscripts, books, to important letters. Before the printing press, medieval monks were some of the only few individuals that could read and write. The writing and preservation for many historical texts have given us an idea of how people lived in that time period. For example, many monks wrote down the stories and historical writings of the Norse people, who were the Vikings, and how they pillaged, destroyed, and stole from settlements at the time when Vikings were dominant. Schools were sometimes opened in monasteries where people of a certain age can learn, hence provide adequate education of the time. Reading, writing, religion, and other subjects were taught to pupils, providing knowledge to uneducated people. However, one had to be quite noble and rich to attend these schools.
The use of writing allowed Christians of medieval Europe to communicate easily among different kingdoms and states, hence allowing many monks to act as scribes as well. These monks allowed ideas to flow with their writings and manuscripting, similar to how today we have the internet. With preservation of historical texts and better communication, monasteries become powerhouses for places of learning and the only source of where ideas spread.
During the time of the Vikings and barbarians after the fall of the Roman Empire, monasteries were places where history, morality, and Christian traditions were kept, whilst the world around the monks of the time were tearing themselves apart. Christian Greco-Roman culture, language, and tradition was preserved from writings to the arts and music were safely preserved in a time when the Vikings plundered monasteries. Upholding traditions and preserving a part of history, monasteries kept society together even when it was falling apart.
St. Michael's Golden Dome Monastery. St. Michael's Golden Dome Church was built in 1087 to 1113 AD. It was built in the city of Kiev in Ukraine and was the first Eastern Orthodox cathedral which had a domed roof known as a gilded dome. The monastery has had some of history from Mongol invasions to Soviet rule. During the Mongol invasion, the golden domes of the cathedral were damaged and had to be repaired. The monastery was dedicated to the Archangel Michael, who was the saint patron of the city of Kiev. The Archangel was considered to be the patron saint of victories and warriors. In the 12th century, the monasteries served as a burial ground for princes.
Sevilla Topolok. Is it Slavic?
First commissioned the building of this monastery during the Middle Ages in 1108 to 1113. In 1934 to 1936, Soviet authorities demolished the cathedral to build a new administrative building, and as a statement saying that communism was over God. Many mosaics and artworks were preserved, though. In 1997 to 1998, the cathedral was rebuilt, and it had opened in 1999 on the 30th of May.
The impact of this monastery to the European medieval society was massive, with the continual spread of Christian faith to Eastern Europe. This site allowed many individuals throughout the medieval era to read, write, and record important moments of history. This aided the Orthodox Church in the medieval ages, giving many people order in their area. In Eastern Europe, patron saints of a specific area are common, allowing pilgrimages to bring revenue to an area.
The legacy of monasticism in medieval society and in today's society is astonishing. Monks and nuns devoted their lives for God and the helping of others, whilst agreeing to a set of rules. It was in these men and women that great works and writings have had been preserved. Biblical texts, scribes, translations, and poets throughout the medieval ages have been preserved to the finest quality by monasteries, hence keeping Christian, Greco-Roman traditions alive. Being some of the few people who can read and write, monasteries became libraries of information and schools of learning. Culture, language, theology, science, and history was kept finally to the present day, allowing us to have a glimpse on how people lived back then. In Eastern European society, St. Michael's Golden Domed Monastery preserved Orthodox Christianity through the preservation of history in the area and as a source of revenue in the area for pilgrimages. Monasticism, through the power of reading and writing, has held traditions, culture of ancient and medieval empires, as well as preserving a part of history. Life would be very different if there were no monasteries.